High school students these days are certainly bold. This young couple, despite being only in middle school, had already started dating. However, the naive girl fell for a trap boy. She poured all her affection and allowance money into buying him numerous gifts for their anniversary. Yet, he didn't get her anything in return. On the day they were about to part ways for high school, the girl wanted a commemorative photo with her boyfriend. He, however, called out his entire group of friends to join in the picture. This relationship wasn't public, and whoever loved more suffered more. Ho-koo-hee is the middle child in an ordinary family with an extremely handsome older brother. Her mother always favored her brother because he was talented and good-looking. Fortunately, her father was on Koo-hee's side, but he had absolutely no say in the household. Ho-koo-hee became an errand girl for her mother and brother. Even in the middle of the night, she had to run out to deliver fried chicken. Unluckily, she ran into a group of crazed fans in front of an idol's house. As soon as the idol appeared, the fans surged forward, nearly crushing Koo-hee. Seizing the opportunity, she quickly escaped the chaotic scene. Koo-hee asked herself, "Why do I have to suffer like this?" The next day was Koo-hee's first day of high school. She hoped for a good fresh start. However, when she got on the bus, Ho-koo-hee discovered her bus card was out of money. Suddenly, a radiant boy stepped forward. "I'll pay for 2 tickets." Koo-hee's heart fluttered, and she thanked him. But it turned out he was paying for his friend behind him. Koo-hee felt utterly embarrassed. The bus driver urged Koo-hee to pay so they could leave. Realizing the boy was also wearing her school uniform, Koo-hee shamelessly asked him for help. The boy, wanting to tease her, said he didn't want to. She had to ask the driver to let her ride for free. Only then did the boy step forward and pay for her. "Why didn't you just help from the beginning?" Koo-hee wished the earth would swallow her whole. Her bad luck didn't stop there. When Koo-hee entered the school gates, she was stopped by a group of upperclassmen who mistook her for a middle school student. It turned out that in her rush that morning, Koo-hee had accidentally worn her old middle school uniform. She tried to convince them she was a high school student, but her small stature made it hard to believe. Luckily, an older student intervened, letting her off the hook and telling her to go to the office to get a proper high school uniform. After dealing with that mess, Koo-hee finally made it to her classroom. But one problem after another, she found herself in the same class as the girls who bullied her in middle school. They were constantly looking for ways to embarrass her. Knowing she couldn't avoid them, Koo-hee resigned herself to finding a seat. She noticed the girl at the desk in front of her was a huge fan of Yoon-woo. Her name was Young Deok-hee. The last time Koo-hee delivered chicken to the idol's house, Deok-hee had grabbed her hair. Learning that the idol frequently ate at Koo-hee's family's restaurant, Deok-hee immediately wanted to become friends. Koo-hee reluctantly agreed since she wasn't close to anyone else in the class yet. Just as she thought that, a familiar face appeared. The boy from the bus walked in with his friend. Both were incredibly popular at school. The boy's name was Jae-hoon, known as the perfect guy in every way. His friend probably benefited from his aura, but wasn't ordinary himself. Koo-hee pouted, thinking Jae-hoon wasn't as perfect as everyone said. Later, the homeroom teacher arrived to welcome the students to high school. She explained the school rules. The focus was solely on studying and self-improvement. Bullying, betrayal, and fighting were not allowed. All misconduct would be disciplined. Koo-hee nodded in appreciation. This seems like a worthwhile environment to study in. She vowed to do her best. During break time, Koo-hee and Deok-hee chatted to learn more about the high school. Coincidentally, the upperclassmen who had stopped Koo-hee at the gate that morning walked by. Deok-hee told Koo-hee they were members of the famous Diva Club. Leading the group was the club's president. She was the daughter of a wealthy and powerful family. The blonde-haired boy next to her was the vice president and the son of a national representative. The vice president recognized Koo-hee and waved. She happily bowed in return. Deok-hee was utterly astonished. "I can't believe you know the male god." Suddenly, a girl blocked the upperclassman's path. It was Ga-yoon, who used to bully Koo-hee in middle school. Ga-yoon tried to act familiar with the president. "We met at a party before." However, the president ignored her. Her eyes were fixed on the handsome Jae-hoon sitting nearby. She introduced herself and asked to meet Jae-hoon privately to get to know him better. Jae-hoon, however, seemed completely uninterested. Coincidentally, Jae-hoon's friend recognized Koo-hee as the girl Jae-hoon had teased on the bus that morning. Still embarrassed, Koo-hee tried her best to avoid him. Later, as Jae-hoon played basketball with his friends, Koo-hee sat gossiping about him with Deok-hee. Jae-hoon was so annoying. Why did everyone like him so much? Deok-hee immediately retorted. With a face like that, who could hate him, except maybe my ultimate bias? Jae-hoon was the most handsome guy Deok-hee had ever seen. Koo-hee seized the opportunity to brag about her middle school boyfriend, claiming he was just as good looking as Jae-hoon, if not better. Deok-hee looked at her with surprise, thinking, this ditz actually had a boyfriend, and he's handsome? Unsure if it was a compliment or an insult, Koo-hee just grinned. At the end of her first day of high school, Koo-hee packed her things, ready to go home. Suddenly, Ga-yoon approached her. It was her turn to clean the classroom. Ga-yoon made up an excuse about being busy and asked Koo-hee to do it for her. Koo-hee knew she was being bullied and thought of a million excuses to refuse, but ultimately lacked the courage to say them out loud. Resentfully, she grabbed the broom and started cleaning. That evening, Koo-hee went to the fried chicken restaurant to help her mother. Her older brother brought a friend to eat. This friend was none other than the famous Ultimate Bias idol. Thanks to his frequent visits, the restaurant was always packed. Koo-hee's mother took the opportunity to ask for an autograph for promotional purposes. Koo-hee also wanted the idol to sign one specifically for Deok-hee. He happily agreed. The idol wasn't arrogant at all, but rather warm and kind. He would have been Koo-hee's first love if it weren't for an embarrassing incident. Koo-hee had gone to the restroom, only to find a clogged toilet. She ran outside to get a plunger, and at that very moment, her brother brought the idol home to use their bathroom. The idol nearly suffocated in the restroom, and even her brother had to cover his nose in disgust. Koo-hee just stood there, frozen in place. Her chance with the idol vanished just like that. Back in the present, Koo-hee thought of her boyfriend and picked up her phone to text him, only to discover he hadn't replied to her message from that morning. Suddenly, she noticed he had changed his profile picture to two hands clasped together. Koo-hee looked at it repeatedly, convinced they weren't her hands. Later, while delivering fried chicken, she spotted her boyfriend walking with another girl. Koo-hee couldn't bring herself to confront them, instead returning home to hide under her covers in sadness. She tried to convince herself she had seen things wrong, but she tossed and turned all night, unable to sleep. And whenever she lost sleep, Koo-hee would inevitably suffer from stomach cramps on the bus the next day. She let one rip, a silent but deadly bomb, and everyone frantically searched for the culprit. Mortified, Koo-hee remained silent. Unfortunately, Jae-hoon figured it out, but unexpectedly, he took the blame for her. Everyone, charmed by his handsome face, readily forgave him. Jae-hoon, however, was still incredibly embarrassed. Yet, Koo-hee suspected he had ulterior motives. She imagined him dragging her into a dark alley, forcing her to say, "I'm the one who farted on the bus 3 times." In her imagination, she complied. However, one question remained: why did Jae-hoon help her? She concluded he wanted to show off, proving he was both handsome and kind. Jae-hoon, in her fantasy, demanded Koo-hee become his errand girl to repay her debt to him. Koo-hee refused. He then pulled out a recording, threatening, "If not, I'll tell everyone you farted on the bus." Koo-hee snapped out of her daydream, noticing the real Jae-hoon beside her, still blushing from the incident. Koo-hee thought to herself, maybe Jae-hoon isn't so bad after all. Later, in class, Koo-hee was still troubled by her boyfriend. She turned to Deok-hee at the desk below, asking, "What does a picture of hands holding together mean?" It was obvious, Deok-hee replied. They were dating. Koo-hee's hopes were dashed. It seemed her boyfriend really did have someone new. Romantic love could change at any moment, but love for an idol was eternal. In contrast to Koo-hee's gloomy expression, Deok-hee was confident she would one day hold her idol's hand, since he was still single. Koo-hee then pulled out the idol's autograph, enticing Deok-hee to help her find out about someone. That evening, the two girls lurked near another high school, researching information on social media. Deok-hee had tracked down Koo-hee's boyfriend, who attended this school. Koo-hee was incredibly impressed with Deok-hee's skills. In truth, these were essential skills honed from years of following idols. Just then, Koo-hee's boyfriend appeared. she was still too shy to confront him, so Deok-hee had to push her forward. Finally face to face, Koo-hee asked, "Why haven't you been reading my messages lately?" At first, he tried to lie, claiming he was too busy to check his phone. But when his new girlfriend arrived, he turned on Koo-hee, snapping, "I told you I wasn't interested. Why are you still clinging to me?" Koo-hee was reduced to a stalker. Deok-hee stepped in to defend her, accusing him of two-timing. Koo-hee's boyfriend didn't care. He simply took his new girlfriend and left. Koo-hee tried to hold on, but he pushed her, sending her sprawling into a pile of trash. Heartbroken, Koo-hee burst into tears. "But you said you'd love me forever." Deok-hee comforted her. "They all say that." Jae-hoon witnessed the entire scene, feeling sorry for Koo-hee. Later, Deok-hee took Koo-hee out for drinks and a heart-to-heart. "I spent all my savings on gifts for him, and I still got cheated on," Deok-hee raged against Koo-hee's ex. Koo-hee was grateful for her friend's support. Having someone to commiserate with made the heartbreak a little less painful. After they had their fill of food and drinks, Deok-hee took Koo-hee home. Inside, her older brother and Yoon-woo were eating pizza. Despite being in his own house, her brother ignored the doorbell. Yoon-woo went to answer it instead. Deok-hee settled Koo-hee down and left. Had she stayed a moment longer, she might have met her idol. The idol led Koo-hee, still reeling from the breakup, inside. He teased, "Koo-hee, did that guy dump you?" Brothers knew each other too well. Koo-hee felt even more miserable. The idol gently comforted her. She decided to let it all out, grabbing a handful of tissues and dramatically chewing on them. It turned out this was a surprisingly effective way to vent her anger. Yoon-woo found it amusing, while her brother was embarrassed by her childish display. In the middle of the night, Koo-hee still couldn't sleep. Suddenly, she heard the idol knock on her door. He was truly warm and caring, placing a glass of warm water on her table. But she hid under the covers, avoiding him. Koo-hee didn't even know why she was acting this way. Suddenly, she received a text message containing a link to a strange app called Revenge Note. Curious, Koo-hee clicked on it, unaware that this would completely change her life. The next day, Koo-hee went to school feeling utterly dejected. Deok-hee gave her a bottle of milk to cheer her up. Coincidentally, it was the same kind of milk Koo-hee had used to confess her feelings to her ex-boyfriend. This made her feel even worse. Ga-yoon and her friends, knowing about the breakup, approached her to rub salt in the wound. "I knew he was a trap boy all along. Someone was clearly blinded by love." Koo-hee couldn't take it anymore and ran out. She remembered the Revenge Note app. Despite her skepticism, she typed her ex-boyfriend's name into it, hoping he would suffer. Unexpectedly, the app actually worked. A message was sent to her ex's phone, warning him that he was targeted for revenge. He dismissed it as nonsense, but immediately, retribution struck. He burned his mouth. On his way home, someone glued his shoes together. He had to wear plastic bags on his feet to school, much to the amusement of his classmates. That evening, Koo-hee's ex had extra classes. Suddenly, he received a message congratulating him on winning a prize, a special fried chicken meal. He excitedly accepted the delivery, surprised by how quickly it arrived. He didn't think much of it, sharing the chicken with his classmates, but there was only 1 cup of Coca-Cola. Naturally, he took it for himself. He didn't know that the Coca-Cola was tainted. After they finished eating, the class began. That's when Koo-hee's ex felt a sharp pain in his stomach. He rushed to the restroom, but the teacher had locked all the doors from the outside. He tried to climb out the window, but another student, thinking he was attempting something foolish, grabbed him, causing him to lose control of his bowels and soil his pants. His classmates were disgusted. Koo-hee's ex wanted to disappear. After class, he cleaned himself up in the restroom, still bewildered by his incredibly bad luck. On the other side of town, Koo-hee was still wondering if her ex-boyfriend had faced any repercussions yet. Suddenly, she received a message from Revenge Note along with some humiliating photos of him. Koo-hee immediately went online to check the information, and to her surprise, it was all true. The notification that the revenge had been successful left Koo-hee bewildered. Who was behind all of this? The next morning, while brushing her teeth and getting ready for school, Koo-hee was still preoccupied with the identity of the person behind the Revenge Note app. Suddenly, her older brother barged into the bathroom. Koo-hee hurried out, and the two siblings started their usual bickering. Koo-hee dismissed the idea of her brother being the one helping her, as he always treated her like an idiot and never showed any concern for her. Later, at school, Koo-hee accidentally discovered that Deok-hee was a computer whiz. She could find any information about a person through social media and even knew how to forge documents, all for the sake of following her idols. Koo-hee thought, she's so good at this, and she's a great student too. Could Deok-hee be the creator of Revenge Note? Koo-hee became determined to get to the bottom of it. Afterward, the class had P. The teacher explained the rules of dodgeball. Hitting a boy was fine, but hitting a girl meant elimination. Koo-hee and Jae-hoon were paired up. Knowing her clumsiness, Koo-hee apologized to Jae-hoon in advance. If they lost, Jae-hoon reassured her, "Don't worry, I'll protect you from behind." The game began, and students were eliminated one by one. Jae-hoon continuously shielded Koo-hee, leading them to the final round. Koo-hee felt incredibly safe, but seeing Jae-hoon getting hit repeatedly made her feel bad. Provoked by Deok-hee, Koo-hee decided to jump in front of the final ball. True to her clumsy nature, she was hit and fell to the ground. The teacher rushed over to check on her, but Jae-hoon pushed him aside and carried Koo-hee straight to the nurse's office. After school, Deok-hee invited Koo-hee out to eat to apologize for hitting her a bit too hard during P. Koo-hee jokingly promised to clean out Deok-hee's wallet. "You can even eat the whole restaurant if you want." Then, Deok-hee asked a question that had been on her mind. "What's going on between you and Jae-hoon? Could he like you?" Koo-hee quickly denied it. "Someone like Jae-hoon would never be interested in me." Deok-hee agreed. As she turned to order more food, Jae-hoon walked into the restaurant and sat at the table opposite Koo-hee. His gaze was directed at her, making Koo-hee incredibly flustered. She started imagining scenarios where Jae-hoon liked her, only to realize he was looking at the menu behind her. Jae-hoon asked Koo-hee to move her head, and embarrassed, she quickly looked down at her food. That evening, 2 security guards spotted a group of delinquent students acting suspiciously. Koo-hee's dad wanted to investigate, but his friend advised him not to get involved. Koo-hee's dad refused to listen and ended up getting beaten up by the delinquents. Fortunately, his friend managed to alert a teacher at the school, who intervened and saved Koo-hee's dad. The teacher promised to discipline the troublemakers, who were furious. Just then, Koo-hee rode by on her bike, saw her injured father, and rushed to his side. The delinquents, realizing she was his daughter, targeted her for revenge. The next day at school, Ga-yoon confronted Koo-hee and demanded she buy her food and drinks. Koo-hee thought to herself, "I'm not a walking wallet," but she complied anyway. She went to the cafeteria, ordered a bunch of items, and brought them back to Ga-yoon, who was pleased with Koo-hee's obedience. Unbeknownst to Ga-yoon, Koo-hee had put the entire order on Ga-yoon's tab. Deok-hee had to give Koo-hee props for her bravery. Meanwhile, Jae-hoon silently observed everything, also looking pleased. Later, while walking alone on campus, Koo-hee was spotted by the delinquent students. They had been punished with cleaning duty and were looking for someone to take their anger out on. Koo-hee, being the daughter of the security guard they had attacked the night before, was the perfect target. They surrounded her, taunting her and demanding she apologize on behalf of her father. Frightened, Koo-hee bowed her head and apologized to each of them. But they weren't ready to let her go. They demanded she buy them food, but their excessive demands left Koo-hee short on cash. She tried to put it on credit with the cafeteria lady, but she refused. Just as Koo-hee was about to resign herself to another beating, the vice president appeared and offered to pay for her. How could she accept such an offer? The vice president told her, "Just consider it a loan, then you can pay me back later." With that, he turned and left. Koo-hee thought to herself, "He's so handsome and kind." Afterward, Koo-hee returned to the delinquents. They devised another way to bully her, forcing her to lift weights while making silly faces so they could take pictures, laughing uproariously the whole time. Their leader reminded Koo-hee that the next time he called, she had to come immediately, and only then would they let her return to class. Koo-hee wiped the chalkboard, looking dazed. Deok-hee approached her and asked, "What happened to you this time?" After hearing Koo-hee's story, Deok-hee informed her that these delinquents were like zombies notorious for holding grudges and making life difficult for anyone who crossed them. Deok-hee's words proved true. Not only was Koo-hee being bullied, but her family's chicken restaurant was also being targeted. Someone had hired people to leave one-star reviews online, causing business to plummet. Someone even ordered delivery, only to refuse the order when Koo-hee's dad arrived. Frustrated, Koo-hee blamed her dad, saying it was all because of his meddling nature. Koo-hee's mom scolded her for being disrespectful to her father. Koo-hee felt wronged but didn't dare speak up, fearing the delinquent's threats. She just wanted a peaceful life, but her parents kept making things complicated. Just then, her older brother walked in with her idol, and the argument ceased. Her idol took Koo-hee home and asked what had happened. Koo-hee didn't want to tell him, but he seemed to have already guessed. He pulled up the embarrassing photos of Koo-hee online. "You definitely didn't post these. Who did this?" Koo-hee broke down in tears and told her idol everything. His eyes filled with anger. Outside, her older brother overheard the entire conversation, his heart aching for his sister. He knew he had to do something. Later, as her idol was leaving, Koo-hee chased after him, having forgotten to ask him not to tell her parents, fearing they would make a big deal out of it. She thought that if she just endured it a little longer, the delinquents would eventually leave her alone. Her idol pulled her into a hug and comforted her. "From now on, tell me anything that bothers you." Koo-hee felt a great sense of relief. Unfortunately, someone secretly took a picture of their embrace. Back in her room, Koo-hee tossed and turned, unable to sleep, dreading facing the delinquents at school the next day. She picked up her phone and started scrolling, and the Revenge Note app popped up. It was a chance for revenge against her bullies. But with so many mysteries surrounding the app, Koo-hee decided to turn off her phone and go to sleep. The next day, Koo-hee went to school and saw a food safety vehicle parked in front of her family's chicken restaurant. Someone had reported getting food poisoning from their chicken, so inspectors were there to collect samples and shut down the restaurant temporarily. Koo-hee's mom fainted from the shock. Her dad and brother wanted to investigate, and although Koo-hee knew who was responsible, she decided to remain silent. At school, the delinquents cornered her again. She asked to leave early due to the family emergency, but they refused. Their leader was about to grab her when Jae-hoon suddenly rushed forward, shielding Koo-hee from them. "What's so great about bullying a girl?" he challenged. Humiliated, the leader and his gang almost started a fight. Luckily, a teacher arrived just in time, and the delinquents fled. Jae-hoon turned to check on Koo-hee, but instead of thanking him, she scolded him for getting involved, saying only she knew how terrifying these delinquents were. She turned and walked away, leaving Jae-hoon feeling deflated after being scolded for helping. Later, Koo-hee returned to the chicken restaurant and found her mother had regained consciousness. She was getting ready to go somewhere urgently, and Koo-hee's father insisted she come along. They went to the hospital to meet the person who had supposedly gotten food poisoning. Koo-hee's dad wanted to settle the matter with compensation, but Koo-hee insisted on a thorough investigation, confident in the safety of their chicken. They found the patient's room, and it turned out to be a student. Koo-hee's dad tried to negotiate, but the student's mother was incredibly arrogant. She threw an apple at Koo-hee's dad, hitting him in the eye. "That's what you get for poisoning my son," she yelled, kicking the family out. They hurried away, and as they did, Koo-hee caught the student smirking slyly. After helping her mother get her father into the car, Koo-hee went to the cafeteria to buy him a drink. She overheard the poisoned student talking to his friends, who were none other than the delinquents. It turned out the student had faked his illness, even deceiving his own mother, in order to get the chicken restaurant shut down permanently. Koo-hee was furious. Just then, she received a notification from the Revenge Note app. She hesitated, but seeing her father's pain and injuries, she decided to use it against the delinquents. Meanwhile, the delinquents were enjoying themselves at a bar. Suddenly, their leader received a message. "You have been chosen for revenge." He dismissed it as an empty threat from a coward and didn't give it a second thought. Immediately afterward, karma struck. A classmate accidentally hit him in the face with a pool cue, leaving him with a swollen eye. "What a bad day," he grumbled, and then proposed to his gang that they go vandalize Koo-hee's family's chicken restaurant. As they were leaving, they discovered someone had put eggs inside their helmets. The leader was furious. The next day at school, the leader sought out Koo-hee, intending to use her as a punching bag, but she refused to go with them. He threatened her, "If you don't come to our meeting place, your whole family will suffer." He then turned to Jae-hoon, "You're coming too." Jae-hoon remained calm and unafraid. The delinquents swaggered off. Just then, Deok-hee rushed into the classroom and showed Koo-hee a video circulating online. It was the footage of the delinquents attacking her father. Koo-hee was heartbroken. Deok-hee comforted her. The police will be questioning those delinquents soon. Because of the video, the delinquents were summoned to the principal's office. The principal called the reporter who posted the video, asking them to take it down so the school could handle the matter internally and avoid further damage to their reputation. The reporter refused and hung up. Furious, the principal yelled at the delinquents, "Look at the mess you've made. The police will be coming to the school to investigate." He wanted them to take responsibility, but they remained defiant. Koo-hee went to the meeting place as instructed. The delinquents tormented her, leaving her disheveled, but Jae-hoon was nowhere to be seen. Koo-hee insisted, "Jae-hoon won't come." Meanwhile, Jae-hoon was about to head home when he received a message from the delinquents with a picture of Koo-hee. If he didn't come, she would be in trouble. Jae-hoon and his best friend rushed to the scene. As soon as they arrived, the delinquents charged towards them. Jae-hoon and his friend were ready for a fight. Despite being outnumbered, Jae-hoon and his friend fought skillfully, gaining the upper hand. Finally, they teamed up for a knockout blow against the leader, taking down the entire gang. Jae-hoon then helped Koo-hee up, and the three of them fled. The delinquents tried to chase them, but the police suddenly arrived and arrested them for assault. From a distance, Koo-hee, her friend, and Jae-hoon watched with satisfaction. Jae-hoon checked on Koo-hee, who, although still shaken, was okay. That evening, Koo-hee received a concerned text from Jae-hoon, which put her at ease. She thanked him for everything. She jokingly asked, "Are you a gangster? You're such a good fighter." Jae-hoon replied that he wasn't a gangster, but a superhero. They tease each other for a bit before saying goodnight. As Koo-hee was about to turn off her phone, she received a notification from the Revenge Note app. It displayed photos of the delinquents being punished, along with the message, "Revenge successful." Koo-hee was bewildered. The app seemed to know everything about her. She suspected someone was watching her, but since they weren't causing her harm, she decided to ignore it for now. Then, Koo-hee drifted off into a pleasant dream where she relived the moment Jae-hoon saved her. He leaned in to kiss her, but before their lips met, her mother woke her up. That day, Koo-hee's parents had to go to the chicken restaurant early. It had just reopened after the food poisoning incident was proven to be a hoax, and thanks to her idol's promotional efforts, business was booming. Her parents were overwhelmed with work, so Koo-hee had to get ready for school on her own. Later, Koo-hee ran into Jae-hoon on the way. He just asked her a few questions, but his friendly demeanor made Koo-hee's heart flutter. Jae-hoon then noticed that Koo-hee had forgotten to wear her tie, meaning she would be reprimanded by the school supervisor at the gate. Jae-hoon immediately took off his own tie and gave it to her. How could Koo-hee's heart not skip a beat? Jae-hoon even accepted the punishment in Koo-hee's place, making her swoon even more. In class, Koo-hee asked Deok-hee to check her pulse because her heart was beating incredibly fast. Deok-hee teased, "You must be lovesick." Koo-hee overheard Ga-yoon and her friends talking. They idolized Jae-hoon, but had heard that he had given his tie to another girl that morning. Ga-yoon fumed, "If I catch her, I'll rip it off that little." Koo-hee panicked, thinking she was doomed. As class time approached, the girls rushed to put on their makeup, especially since the next class was with Mr. Kim, the most popular teacher in school. He was handsome and kind. Ga-yoon even brought him a drink and a fruit, placing them on his desk. Mr. Kim asked the class, "Who prepared the fruit for me?" Ga-yoon immediately raised her hand. Mr. Kim playfully responded, "Don't bribe me like this again." The class began. At the end, Mr. Kim reminded the students to do their homework, especially you, Bong-yi. Bong-yi's expression was strange. Mr. Kim said goodbye and left. Seeing Mr. Kim's concern for Bong-yi, Ga-yoon looked for a way to cause trouble. In the restroom, she purposely splashed water on Bong-yi and wiped her hands on her shirt. Bong-yi, unfazed, walked away. The other girls then gossiped about Bong-yi, claiming she was trying to seduce Mr. Kim. Only after they left did Koo-hee dare to appear. She felt sorry for Bong-yi, as she too was bullied. But Koo-hee had to worry about herself first. Later, Koo-hee met up with Deok-hee, who noticed something different about Koo-hee's tie. It was usually messy and wrinkled, but today it was perfectly neat. "Whose tie did you steal?" Deok-hee asked. Koo-hee immediately denied it. unable to let Deok-hee know it was Jae-hoon's. Deok-hee didn't press the issue, turning instead to eavesdrop on Ga-yoon's group. They were bad-mouthing the school supervisor, calling him a pervert. They claimed he hid on the stairs to peek under girls' skirts and even watched movies in the supervisor's office when no one was around. Koo-hee and Deok-hee were shocked. Later, the two went to the gym to watch the boys play basketball. Deok-hee had her camera ready, her eyes glued to Jae-hoon, praising his looks and skills. Koo-hee, equally smitten, fetched a stray ball. Jae-hoon came to retrieve it, making Koo-hee blush. Deok-hee sensed something, but Koo-hee still tried to deny it. "Do you think I'm good enough for him?" Deok-hee advised. "If you like him, be bold." Koo-hee sighed. "I wish it were that easy." Suddenly, Deok-hee noticed the school supervisor approaching Jae-hoon. Remembering Ga-yoon's words, she wondered if he really was a pervert. He spoke briefly with Bong-yi, who then left, seemingly undisturbed. However, Koo-hee later found Bong-yi crying alone in the classroom. She felt incredibly sorry for her. Suddenly, the Revenge Diary app appeared. "Do you want to take revenge on someone now?" Koo-hee hesitated, but remembering the supervisor's alleged actions, and unable to bear the thought of him harming other girls, especially Bong-yi, she decided to enter his name. The next day, they had class with the supervisor. He acted as strict as ever. Deok-hee reminded Koo-hee, "Put your phone away or the supervisor will catch you." Koo-hee's phone was malfunctioning, and as she tried to fix it, the supervisor started his lesson. Suddenly, the projector displayed a video of a pig, causing chaos in the classroom. The supervisor quickly turned off the computer just as the principal and an inspector walked by. "How dare you do this in front of the students?" The principal demanded the supervisor go to her office immediately. His reputation was ruined. The class celebrated the unexpected free period. Koo-hee felt uneasy, yet satisfied that she had helped eliminate a threat. However, when she looked at Bong-yi, she saw no trace of happiness. That evening, Koo-hee was driving home when she spotted Bong-yi with Mr. Kim. She followed them to the parking garage and witnessed an argument. Mr. Kim tried to touch Bong-yi, but she pulled away and tried to leave. He pulled her back towards his car, but she escaped again. Mr. Kim sighed in frustration. Koo-hee realized then that the real pervert was Mr. Kim, not the school supervisor. Koo-hee felt conflicted, unsure how to apologize to the supervisor or how to deal with Mr. Kim. The Revenge Diary app was unusable. Koo-hee berated herself for being so foolish, vowing to think things through more carefully next time. The next morning, the class learned that Mr. Kim had removed Bong-yi from the scholarship competition. Ga-yoon and her friends gossiped, assuming Bong-yi had failed to seduce him. Bong-yi, upset but refusing to argue, walked away. This time, Koo-hee decided to defend her. She told her classmates that Mr. Kim was two-faced. Ga-yoon, unwilling to tolerate any criticism of her idol, confronted Koo-hee. Koo-hee stood her ground, demanding Ga-yoon apologize to Bong-yi. Enraged, Ga-yoon grabbed Koo-hee's hair. Normally passive, Koo-hee retaliated, pulling Ga-yoon's hair in return. Their classmates tried to intervene, but both girls ended up kneeling in the hallway as punishment. They continued to bicker until a teacher arrived. Later, Koo-hee met Deok-hee at a restaurant. She recounted the events and asked for advice on how to handle Mr. Kim. Deok-hee admitted it would be difficult. Revealing the truth might hurt Bong-yi further, and no one would believe Mr. Kim was capable of such behavior. He had cultivated a perfect image at school. However, it wasn't impossible. Deok-hee and Koo-hee devised a plan. That evening, Mr. Kim was in his office when he received a text from Bong-yi. She claimed to regret her actions and asked to meet him privately. He eagerly went to the meeting place and closed the curtains, preparing to take advantage of Bong-yi, promising to help her get into college afterward. But as he approached, he was met with a finger pointed in his face. It wasn't Bong-yi, but Koo-hee in disguise. Koo-hee had sent the text. Spoofing an account was easy for a tech whiz like Deok-hee. Koo-hee had recorded the entire conversation and planned to expose Mr. Kim. He urged her to calm down and negotiate, then seized the opportunity to snatch her phone and delete the recording. "Now there's no proof," he smirked. "No one will believe you." He let Koo-hee go. Just then, Deok-hee appeared. She had filmed everything. Koo-hee's heart-stopping performance hadn't been in vain. The video quickly spread online. The next day, Mr. Kim arrived at school to find the girls avoiding him. Sensing something was wrong, he checked his phone in his office and saw his exposed misdeeds. He knew he was finished. Ga-yoon and her friends also saw the video. Ga-yoon still tried to defend Mr. Kim, but the other girls refuted her. The video was clear evidence. Ga-yoon then realized something and looked at Koo-hee, who was smiling triumphantly. A few days later, Deok-hee informed Koo-hee that Mr. Kim had been fired. After Koo-hee and Deok-hee exposed the truth, many other girls had come forward with their own accusations. He had not only lost his job, Deok-hee trailed off, but Bong-yee's radiant expression spoke volumes. They approached Bong-yee, who confirmed she had been reinstated in the scholarship competition. She thanked Koo-hee for defending her earlier. Just then, Ga-yoon walked by. Koo-hee demanded she apologize to Bong-yee for her judgmental remarks. Humiliated, Ga-yoon reluctantly apologized. Satisfied, Koo-hee walked away. Jae-hoon handed his notebook to his best friend and hurried after Koo-hee. No one in school knew who the girl in the video was, only Jae-hoon recognized her. That petite figure. Was she the one who put on a show in front of Mr. Kim? Koo-hee shyly admitted it. Jae-hoon was incredibly impressed. "You're so cool." Koo-hee tried to avoid him. She had something to give back to Jae-hoon. Inside her bag was his tie and a small gift. Koo-hee told him to wait until she was gone before opening it. After Koo-hee left, Jae-hoon opened the gift. It turned out to be a coupon for fried chicken. She truly was the marketing master. He found her endearing. That evening, Koo-hee went to Deok-hee's house. Today was the day their idol released a new song. They prepared their tools to boost the song's views. As soon as the song premiered, they immediately started spamming the comments section. Deok-hee wasn't the only fan of the idol in the house. Her mother was also a devoted follower. She even prepared a jar of soy sauce pickled kimchi for her husband to deliver to the idol's house. The next day, the girls in class were buzzing about the idol's new song. Praise could be heard everywhere. They even competed to see who could collect the most albums. Of course, Deok-hee won. Jae-hoon's friend didn't know one thing: never mess with a girl's idol. He made a few snide remarks about the idol and was immediately swarmed and ganged up on by a group of girls. Only Koo-hee remained unfazed amidst the chaos. For her, idols weren't some unattainable luxury. She could hug hers whenever she wanted. The fried chicken restaurant had been incredibly busy these last few days thanks to the idol's endorsement. There were even customers from overseas. Koo-hee struggled with her English, so she had to ask her older brother to take their orders. His handsome face was finally put to good use. Their mother watched Koo-hee and could only shake her head in exasperation. Thankfully, Koo-hee could still help wait tables. Finally getting a moment to herself, Koo-hee sat down and checked on Deok-hee. She had been coming to the fried chicken restaurant every day hoping to see the idol. But lately, his schedule had been so packed that he only ordered takeout. Koo-hee tried everything to dissuade her, but Deok-hee refused to give up. She even started diligently studying Japanese because the idol would be holding a concert in Japan soon. To save money for the concert, Deok-hee made and sold plush dolls of the idol, earning a decent amount. But if the idol toured worldwide, I might have to sell a kidney. Koo-hee looked at Deok-hee and sighed. Suddenly, the girls in class erupted into a frenzy over a post online. The idol was dating a high school girl, and the person he was hugging was wearing their school uniform. The girls were determined to find out who it was. As soon as Koo-hee saw the picture, her face turned pale. The girl in the photo was her. Deok-hee still had complete faith in her idol, believing someone was trying to frame him. If I find out who it is, they'll be sorry. Koo-hee found herself in a difficult situation, unable to tell Deok-hee the truth. That evening, Koo-hee called the idol. Firstly, to check if he was okay. Secondly, to ask what she should do to help him. Because Koo-hee felt incredibly guilty. The idol told Koo-hee to stay silent and act like nothing had happened. He'd take care of it, or with time, things would die down on their own. Koo-hee agreed and hung up, still feeling troubled. On the other side, the manager met with the idol to discuss how to handle the situation. He wanted to know who the girl in the photo was and if they could ask her to make a statement. The idol refused. He was afraid that if Koo-hee's identity was revealed, she would be attacked by obsessed fans, making her life difficult. The reason the idol was so protective of Koo-hee stemmed from something that happened in the past. Back then, her idol's mother had cancer. Koo-hee often visited her in the hospital, keeping her company and cheering her up during her final days. The idol's mother promised Koo-hee, "Someday, I'll make you my daughter-in-law." Koo-hee took the promise to heart. She even made herself available whenever her idol needed her. From then on, he reserved a special place in his heart for her. One morning, Koo-hee delivered fried chicken to the park, only to discover that the order was placed by Jae-hoon. He wanted to use a coupon he had received, giving Koo-hee a chance to get out. Koo-hee wanted to return to the chicken restaurant immediately because there was a lot of work to do. Jae-hoon invited her to sit down and eat with him. Just as Koo-hee was about to refuse, her stomach grumbled. The three of them ate and enjoyed themselves. Koo-hee, a bit clumsy, ended up with chili sauce on her face. Jae-hoon thoughtfully wiped it off for her. Koo-hee fell deeper into his charm, while his friend was forced to endure a heavy dose of public displays of affection. Elsewhere, Deok-hee and her mother went to an internet cafe to try and snag tickets to her idol's concert. Deok-hee's mother promised her, "If you can get tickets this time, I'll give you extra spending money." Deok-hee was determined. However, the ticket hunt wasn't smooth. The tickets sold out in the blink of an eye. Neither Deok-hee nor her mother managed to get any. Her mother became furious, placing all the blame on Deok-hee. "When we get home, you're getting a lesson." Deok-hee was afraid to go home, so she went to Koo-hee's place to stay until her mother calmed down. Koo-hee told Deok-hee to go to her room while she helped her parents with the chicken restaurant. However, Deok-hee accidentally went into her older brother's room, right after he had finished showering. Both of them screamed in shock. Deok-hee pretended to cover her eyes while actually checking out her older brother's physique. This girl was quite the flirt. Strangely, Deok-hee was unusually obedient and polite that day, agreeing with everything her older brother said. After hearing Koo-hee describe him as a bad person, she was surprised by how handsome he actually was. The older brother, who usually argued with Koo-hee, was also incredibly chivalrous. He had to go out, so to keep Deok-hee entertained, he gave her the family photo album. While looking through the album, Deok-hee stumbled upon a secret. Koo-hee knew her idol, and she hadn't told her? Deok-hee felt betrayed and deeply disappointed in Koo-hee. Later, Koo-hee returned home but couldn't find Deok-hee. After searching without success, she assumed Deok-hee had something come up and left early. But why hadn't she said anything? The next day at school, Koo-hee wanted to ask Deok-hee what had happened the previous night. Deok-hee feigned exhaustion to avoid Koo-hee's questions. However, when the other girls mentioned the idol, Deok-hee was suddenly full of energy. Koo-hee found this incredibly strange. Just then, the girls started talking about a video that was going viral. The girl in the video claimed to be a victim of harassment by the idol. Everyone couldn't believe that their idol was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Seeing Ga-yoon constantly insulting the idol, Koo-hee couldn't hold back any longer. She angrily yelled, "What do you even know about him to say such things?" Koo-hee had never been so hot-headed, making Jae-hoon suspicious. Later, Koo-hee returned home. She called her idol several times but couldn't reach him, and began to worry. Her older brother entered, relaying a message from the idol to Koo-hee. "From now on, don't call anymore because you won't be able to reach me. I want to wait until things calm down before I reappear." Her older brother told Koo-hee not to worry. After her brother left, the revenge note suddenly appeared. This time, Koo-hee really wanted to use it. However, she didn't know who was framing her idol. Koo-hee thought of Deok-hee. If she were here, maybe it would be easier to find the culprit. Koo-hee had to find a way to talk to Deok-hee. Meanwhile, the idol group was ready to go on stage for their concert. Suddenly, the PD entered and announced, "Their song has been cut from the broadcast due to unforeseen circumstances." The manager pleaded with the PD to reconsider, but he didn't care. The entire group looked at their idol. "This is all your fault." The idol could only lower his head, feeling guilty towards his colleagues. That day, as school ended, it began to rain. Deok-hee had an umbrella. Koo-hee expected a ride, but Deok-hee left with another classmate, even though they lived in opposite directions. Koo-hee was incredibly upset, feeling that Deok-hee was constantly avoiding her. Jae-hoon happened to witness this scene. His perceptive best friend handed him an umbrella. Jae-hoon rushed over to shield Koo-hee from the rain, a gesture that deeply touched her. Overwhelmed with emotion, Koo-hee burst into tears, releasing all the pent-up frustration she had been carrying. Later, Koo-hee went home. Her mother reminded her to clean her room and put away a photo album. Koo-hee wondered who had left it there. Her older brother told her he had given it to Deok-hee the other day. Finally, Koo-hee understood why Deok-hee wasn't talking to her. Furious, she scolded her brother for turning her life upside down. Afterwards, Koo-hee wrote a heartfelt apology letter to Deok-hee and took it to her house. Deok-hee's mother answered the doorbell, but Koo-hee had already run away, leaving only a package at the doorstep. Her mother took it to Deok-hee's room. Inside the package was a signed album of their favorite idol, along with Koo-hee's apology letter. After reading it, Deok-hee understood why Koo-hee had hidden her connection to the idol. Koo-hee simply didn't want her life to become chaotic. Deok-hee gradually began to forgive her. That evening, Deok-hee went to the fried chicken restaurant, but was still hesitant to face Koo-hee. Just then, Koo-hee's father returned from a delivery. "If there's something going on, just come inside," he said. Koo-hee's parents were puzzled. Even though they were sitting across from each other, Koo-hee and Deok-hee were still communicating through text messages. Deok-hee hadn't completely forgiven Koo-hee yet. Koo-hee was tricked into promising free fried chicken for life. Deok-hee instantly brightened and spoke up. Finally, the two reconciled. Afterwards, Koo-hee took Deok-hee to her room. First, they had to deal with the idol's problem. Deok-hee tried using her computer to investigate the person who had harmed their idol, but one person wasn't enough. She had to mobilize a whole team. They were all devoted fans of the idol, and also tech geniuses. After a day of hard work, they found the IP address of the perpetrator. Deok-hee immediately called Koo-hee with the news. The IP address was near the idol's company, and the user's name was Goo-kai. Now it was Koo-hee's turn. She opened her revenge journal app, entered Goo-kai's name, and initiated the revenge process. Koo-hee could finally breathe a sigh of relief. On the other side, Goo-kai received a message, "You have become a target of revenge." His computer started malfunctioning, the screen going black. Goo-kai disappeared into the darkness. At that moment, Deok-hee led her allies to Goo-kai's IP address. It was an internet cafe. They split up to investigate. Deok-hee met the owner and asked to see the security camera footage. But it malfunctioned precisely when Goo-kai was there, not once, but twice. Deok-hee found this strange. She felt like she had seen the internet cafe owner somewhere before. With no further leads, the group temporarily retreated. At home, Koo-hee's parents were worried. That evening, on her way home, Deok-hee noticed someone following her. She turned around to check, but it was just a passerby. Suddenly, a figure in black appeared in front of Deok-hee. He covered her mouth and dragged her away, causing her to drop her idol plushie. Later, Jae-hoon and his best friend were walking down the same street and happened to find Deok-hee's plushie. Just then, the kidnapper's car sped away, and they immediately gave chase, but it was too late. Luckily, his friend remembered the license plate number. Jae-hoon and his friends searched the streets until morning. They finally found the car, number 2745. Jae-hoon told his friend to call the police. It was parked outside an internet cafe. Jae-hoon bravely went in to investigate. Inside, Deok-hee woke up. She recognized her kidnapper as the internet cafe owner. He also admitted that he was Goo-kai, the person the group of girls were looking for. Goo-kai, enraged, yelled at Deok-hee, "You shouldn't have messed with me because of that trash idol." Suddenly, the sound of police sirens blared from outside. Goo-kai hastily tried to escape. He ran into Jae-hoon, but before he could react, Jae-hoon tripped him, sending him sprawling. Jae-hoon quickly subdued Goo-kai, allowing his friend to rush in and rescue Deok-hee. Afterwards, the police took Goo-kai to the station. The heroes were surrounded by reporters eager for interviews. Jae-hoon's friend recounted the entire rescue. Seizing the opportunity, Deok-hee informed the reporters that Goo-kai had kidnapped her. He was also the one who framed the idol. Gu Kai wanted revenge because the idol had supposedly stolen his spot in the group. But in reality, Gu Kai had no talent whatsoever. The police also apprehended the woman who pretended to be the victim in the video that incriminated the idol. It turned out she was Gu Kai's girlfriend, and they had planned to extort money from the idol's agency. They had even bought plane tickets, ready to flee the country after the deed was done. Finally, the whole truth was revealed. The idol group announced their imminent comeback. Ku Hee could breathe a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, she received a call from Deok Hee. She was crying in fear but still remembered to ask Ku Hee to get her concert tickets from the idol. After everything Deok Hee had done, Ku Hee promised to try her best. They said their goodbyes and hung up. Just then, Ku Hee received a notification from the Revenge Note app, along with pictures of Gu Kai. Revenge complete. Ku Hee still tried to guess who was behind the app. It couldn't be Deok Hee since she was kidnapped. The idol was also a victim, so it couldn't be him either. So, who was it? A few days later, Deok Hee took her mother to the idol's concert. Ku Hee had managed to get them tickets, and not just any tickets, but special ones. Deok Hee and her mother were escorted by the manager to the idol's dressing room, under the envious gaze of everyone else. First, the group wanted to thank Deok Hee. Thanks to her clearing the idol's name, the group had a chance to revive their career. Deok Hee quickly brushed off the credit. For you guys, I'm willing to sacrifice anything. Now, even if we die, we'll die happy. The group was incredibly friendly and invited Deok Hee's mother to take pictures with them. Deok Hee took the opportunity to talk to the idol. He was very concerned about her. I heard you were injured while catching the person who framed me. Deok Hee acted tough, making the idol laugh. She invited him to her family's chicken restaurant. He also wanted to meet the Go family, so he readily accepted. Deok Hee was overjoyed. The next day, Deok Hee was diligently streaming the idol's music videos. Suddenly, she heard a knock on the door. She opened it to find Ku Hee standing there with a suitcase, asking to stay for a few days. It turned out Ku Hee had run away from home because she felt disrespected in her own family. Ku Hee's mother only cared about her older brother. If he hadn't eaten yet, Ku Hee wasn't allowed to take food first. She got upset and went to her room. Later, feeling hungry, Ku Hee wanted to cook noodles. She specifically asked her older brother if he wanted any, and he firmly refused. However, as soon as Ku Hee finished cooking, her older brother barged in and started eating them. Go felt sorry for him and let him have some. He said, "Just a small bite," but he took a huge mouthful, finishing the whole bowl. Ku Hee, annoyed, hit her brother. Their mother, not understanding the situation, saw this and hit Ku Hee. Feeling wronged, Ku Hee decided to run away. Back in reality, Deok Hee nodded. So it was because of the noodles? You're so petty. Ku Hee was completely exasperated. She'd explained everything until she was blue in the face, but Deok Hee still didn't understand. Ku Hee tried to explain that it was all her jerk older brother's fault. But Deok Hee thought her older brother was amazing, tall, handsome, and kind. He acted that way outside, but at home, he always called Ku Hee ugly. And to think, he was such an honest person. Deok Hee's slip of the tongue only made Ku Hee more upset. Suddenly, Deok Hee's mom yelled from outside. Both girls poked their heads out to see what was going on. It turned out her favorite contestant on a show had been eliminated. "That's my mom," Deok Hee said, worried her mother's late-night yelling would keep Ku Hee awake. "It's best if you go home, Ku Hee." Ku Hee said goodbye to Deok Hee and left. After arriving home, Ku Hee tiptoed around, afraid of being discovered by her parents. Unfortunately, her older brother caught her. He interrogated her. "Were you messing with my computer?" Ku Hee didn't care. "What are you hiding on your computer?" her brother warned. "Ku Hee, you better watch out if you touch it." Ku Hee pretended to be obedient. She asked, "Where are Mom and Dad?" "They're already asleep. I'm going to bed too." Ku Hee was extremely disappointed. She had been gone all day, and no one seemed to care, as if she didn't even exist. Ku Hee dragged her suitcase back to her room, acting as if her runaway attempt had never happened. In the morning, the class had French. The teacher wanted everyone to form groups for the next period's test. But first, it was break time. Koo-hee turned around to ask Deok-hee to be in her group. But Deok-hee had left early today. By Idol Tilda. Her mother had already written an excuse note for Deok-hee. Like mother, like daughter. Deok-hee waved goodbye to Koo-hee and left. Seeing Koo-hee sitting alone and bored, Na-hee, another girl in the class, came over to talk to her. Na-hee, known as the makeup master, could pull off any look. She offered to do Koo-hee's makeup. While drawing on Koo-hee's eyebrows, Na-hee revealed her motive. She liked Jae-hoon. Since Koo-hee was close to Jae-hoon, Na-hee wanted her to play matchmaker. Koo-hee paused for a moment, but agreed to help Na-hee. Na-hee wouldn't let Koo-hee go unrewarded. She promised to introduce Koo-hee to someone suitable. Before returning to her seat, Na-hee even gave Koo-hee a lipstick. Koo-hee was put in an awkward situation. After school, Na-hee chased after Koo-hee. She had found someone for Koo-hee to go on a blind date with. However, Koo-hee refused because she wasn't interested in dating. Na-hee pleaded. Koo-hee, just go meet him once, Tilda. Koo-hee reluctantly agreed. At the meeting place, Koo-hee was shocked to discover the person Na-hee had set her up with was her ex-boyfriend. After his revenge scheme last time, he had been dumped by his girlfriend for pooping his pants. However, her ex-boyfriend's mooching attitude hadn't changed. He flattered her. Koo-hee, you're the best. Can you buy me some food? Koo-hee couldn't bring herself to refuse. Watching her ex-boyfriend eat like a starving wolf, Koo-hee felt a pang of pity. Meanwhile, Na-hee was waiting in the hallway. As soon as Jae-hoon appeared, she rushed over and invited him to eat. Jae-hoon wanted to refuse, but upon hearing the words free food, his best friend agreed on his behalf. The three of them went to a restaurant. Na-hee deliberately arranged for Jae-hoon to see Koo-hee. Jae-hoon's best friend recognized Koo-hee's ex-boyfriend, which made him suspicious. How do you guys know him? Jae-hoon and his best friend not only knew him, but had also witnessed Koo-hee's tragic love story firsthand. Jae-hoon's best friend asked. I thought you two broke up. Koo-hee's ex-boyfriend quickly denied it. We just had a little fight and made up. Jae-hoon was incredibly disappointed. His heart ached a little. Angry, he turned and walked away. His best friend and Na-hee immediately chased after him. Koo-hee wanted to explain to Jae-hoon but couldn't catch up to the three of them. Koo-hee's mind was now a tangled mess. Inside the restaurant, Koo-hee's ex-boyfriend texted Na-hee. The plan worked Tilda. Na-hee thanked him. She would quickly make Jae-hoon hers. That evening, Koo-hee returned home. She wanted to text Jae-hoon and explain, but she didn't know where to start. Suddenly, her older brother opened the door to her room. Koo-hee, aren't you going to shower? The water will be shut off soon. Koo-hee left her phone on the table and left. Just as Jae-hoon called, Koo-hee's older brother, wanting to tease her, answered the phone. Unintentionally, he deepened the misunderstanding between Koo-hee and Jae-hoon. Later, Koo-hee returned and saw her brother messing with her phone. She immediately snatched it back and discovered a missed call from Jae-hoon. She called him back, but the number was unreachable. Koo-hee questioned her brother. What did you just say to Jae-hoon? He simply raised an eyebrow. Unable to stand it, Koo-hee angrily kicked her brother out and opened her revenge journal app, entering his name, but the app wouldn't work. Koo-hee felt helpless. The next day, her brother, realizing his mistake, waited outside her door to apologize, but Koo-hee refused to forgive him. He realized he'd gone too far and wondered how to appease her. Later, at school, Koo-hee recounted everything to Deok-hee, who advised her to explain everything directly to Jae-hoon. As Koo-hee was about to approach Jae-hoon, Na-hee intercepted her, deliberately telling Jae-hoon that Koo-hee had gotten back together with her ex-boyfriend. Jae-hoon pretended not to care, but inside, he wasn't happy. He went and sat in a dark corner of the room. Deok-hee led Koo-hee back to her seat before break time. As Koo-hee was lost in thought, Na-hee approached her, wanting to put her in her place. You promised to help me get Jae-hoon, don't forget that. Just when things had calmed down a bit, Koo-hee found herself in an awkward situation in the library, witnessing Na-hee being affectionate with Jae-hoon. Koo-hee had to restrain herself from slapping them both, but she couldn't tolerate Deok-hee's meddling. "It's obvious you like Jae-hoon, and you were there first." Koo-hee begged Deok-hee not to cause trouble for her, but Deok-hee, unwilling to see her best friend lose the boy she loved, continued to create opportunities for Koo-hee to compete. Koo-hee's ex-boyfriend was waiting outside the school gates. Knowing the time was right, Deok-hee entrusted Koo-hee to Jae-hoon's protection and dragged her best friend away. Koo-hee and Jae-hoon walked in a different direction to avoid running into her ex. As Koo-hee explained the situation to Jae-hoon, she realized she had accidentally called her brother again. She also clarified that she hadn't gotten back together with her ex. Knowing the truth, Jae-hoon's mood brightened considerably, and he decided to treat Koo-hee to a meal. Knowing Koo-hee's hearty appetite, Jae-hoon ordered a large table full of food. Even so, Koo-hee ate until she had food in her hair. Finally, Jae-hoon ordered her a mango ice cream, which she also devoured. Afterwards, as they walked back, they came across a sign in French. Remembering their French teacher's assignment to collect photos of such signs, Koo-hee suggested they form a team and take a selfie with the sign. Koo-hee wondered what the sign meant. Jae-hoon leaned in close and explained, "It means I like you." Koo-hee's heart skipped a beat. Jae-hoon then used the excuse of comparing hand sizes, commenting on how small and cute hers were, as an opportunity to hold her hand, making her incredibly happy. This could be considered their first date. However, Koo-hee had a sensitive stomach, and having eaten so much, she needed to use the restroom and excused herself. Just then, they were spotted by Na-hee, who blocked Koo-hee's path. "Why are you with Jae-hoon right now?" Koo-hee was in no mood to explain, but Na-hee refused to let her pass. Unable to hold it any longer, Koo-hee had an accident right there. Jae-hoon, just like on the bus, took the blame for her. Koo-hee felt terrible. While Na-hee was still stunned, Koo-hee quickly ran off. Jae-hoon watched her go worriedly. Na-hee then cheerfully linked arms with Jae-hoon and asked him to walk her home, but Jae-hoon told her to stay away and not act so familiar with him anymore. Na-hee realized that Jae-hoon liked Koo-hee. This incident made Koo-hee one more enemy. The next day, Koo-hee arrived at school only to be cornered by a group of girls. They accused her of stealing Na-hee's lipstick, but Koo-hee knew Na-hee had given it to her. Na-hee fabricated a story, claiming she had only lent the lipstick and now wanted it back. Koo-hee didn't even care about the lipstick, a gift that turned into a burden. She let the girls take it back to Na-hee. Deok-hee subtly warned Koo-hee, "A girl's jealousy is extremely dangerous. You have to be really careful." However, Deok-hee didn't realize Na-hee's anger extended to her as well. During break time, Na-hee picked a fight with Deok-hee. She deliberately said loudly, "Yesterday, Deok-hee skipped school to go see her son-in-law, making sure their homeroom teacher overheard." Deok-hee accidentally admitted it, and the teacher dragged her out into the hallway for a scolding. Unexpectedly, the teacher was also a huge fan of the idol, and the two ended up chatting excitedly. Meanwhile, Koo-hee couldn't tolerate Na-hee's increasingly outrageous behavior. Na-hee could target her, but not her friends. Koo-hee asked Na-hee what she had to do to be left alone. Na-hee told Koo-hee that she would relentlessly torment her and anyone close to her for stealing Jae-hoon. Then, Na-hee pretended to trip and put on a pitiful act, painting Koo-hee as the villain to gain sympathy from their classmates. In this situation, even if Koo-hee argued, she wouldn't win against Na-hee, so she stood silently while others berated her. Fortunately, Deok-hee, who understood Koo-hee's character, stepped in to defend her, and the crowd finally dispersed. Koo-hee then asked Deok-hee if she had been punished severely. Deok-hee replied, "It's fine." It truly was fine, but Koo-hee still felt guilty. She decided to find a quiet place and use her revenge diary. This time, the target was Na-hee. After school, Koo-hee was surrounded by her ex-boyfriend and Na-hee's friends. Her ex-boyfriend clung to her like a leech, begging for forgiveness. She agreed and sent him away, but firmly refused to rekindle their old relationship. Na-hee continued to taunt Koo-hee, saying she already had a boyfriend and was still flirting with Jae-hoon, a two-timer who would never notice her. One girl, even on crutches, hobbled along to join the spectacle, adding to the absurdity. Koo-hee couldn't take it anymore and angrily turned to confront the mess. She admitted she liked Jae-hoon. "So what if he doesn't like me back? It's my heart's right to love whoever I want." Everyone heard her. Surprisingly, Koo-hee was so brave today. Koo-hee suddenly realized she had spoken quite loudly, and unexpectedly, it started pouring rain. The others hurried to the hallway for cover, but Koo-hee stood rooted to the spot. Jae-hoon walked over with an umbrella and shielded Koo-hee from the rain, stunning their classmates. Jae-hoon had heard everything. He declared, "Koo-hee, you're wrong. It's not just you who likes me. I like you too." Koo-hee was overjoyed, wishing time would stop at that moment. Na-hee and Koo-hee's ex-boyfriend swallowed their bitter resentment, now with no reason to continue their harassment. Koo-hee's revenge was successful. Afterwards, Jae-hoon walked Koo-hee home. Her older brother was waiting at the gate with an umbrella for her. However, he saw Koo-hee with another boy. He felt a pang of disappointment. In truth, he cared deeply for Koo-hee, even obsessively so. He constantly badmouthed her to his friends to keep them away. He had promised to protect her always, but now it seemed some things were inevitable. As soon as they got home, her older brother rushed to the bathroom, tossing his phone on the table. Just then, a call came in. Koo-hee, wanting revenge for a previous incident, decided to prank him. She repeated verbatim what he had said to Jae-hoon, causing the girl on the other end to angrily hang up. Koo-hee felt immensely satisfied. That evening, Koo-hee returned to school because she had left her books in the classroom. She discovered a couple on a date in the classroom, Ga-yoon and a boy. However, Koo-hee couldn't see the boy's face clearly, only his shoes. He was wearing both of them and seemed to be having a good time. Not wanting to interrupt, Koo-hee decided to head home. Unfortunately, she was caught by the security guard. Wanting to cover for Ga-yoon, Koo-hee devised a plan to distract him. "I'm a little scared of ghosts. Could you walk me part of the way home?" The guard obliged and escorted Koo-hee for a short distance. Koo-hee opened her computer to look at photos. She and Ga-yoon used to be close, but a misunderstanding had driven them apart. Suddenly, her older brother walked in and saw a picture of Koo-hee and Ga-yoon together. He offered Koo-hee some advice. "Next time you take a picture, stay away from pretty girls like that, or you'll just look worse by comparison." Annoyed, Koo-hee kicked her brother out. He appeased her with an ice cream bar, but then asked, "Just one tiny bite, okay?" Koo-hee, ever gullible, agreed. His tiny bite turned out to be 2/3 of the bar. Koo-hee wanted to cry. Her brother, amused, left the room. The next day at school, the homeroom teacher warned the students, "No dating allowed on school grounds. Recently, the security guard caught a couple sneaking around, and they will face serious disciplinary action." Koo-hee glanced at Ga-yoon, but it didn't seem like she was involved. It turned out to be two upperclassmen. The teacher expressed his hope that their class would avoid such behavior and dismissed them. During break time, Ga-yoon approached the senior members of the Hiva Club. This time, the president didn't reject her. She was even invited to sit with them. The president told Ga-yoon that Hiva had recently started an English club, and she was welcome to join if she was interested. Ga-yoon was thrilled. The surrounding girls expressed their admiration for Ga-yoon, wishing they could also get the attention of the Hiva members. Koo-hee didn't care about that, but she kept her eyes on Ga-yoon, sensing something was off. Deok-hee nudged Koo-hee and told her to stop staring and pay attention. "He's going." Koo-hee turned to Jae-hoon, who greeted her with his usual friendly smile. Jae-hoon even helped go open his soda can, showering his friends with a public display of affection. Koo-hee felt like the happiest girl in the world. That evening, Koo-hee lay on the sofa, eagerly awaiting a text from Jae-hoon. Her older brother teased her about it, much to her annoyance. However, as soon as she received a message from Jae-hoon, Koo-hee's spirits lifted. She rushed to her room to text him back. At first, Jae-hoon only replied with okay to everything she said. Perhaps because it was her first relationship, Koo-hee felt a bit disappointed. She was about to turn off her phone and go to sleep when Jae-hoon texted her again. This time, the message was full of cheesy pickup lines, even accompanied by cute emojis. Koo-hee was astonished. In just a few minutes, Jae-hoon seemed to have transformed into a different person. It turned out he had found 100 pickup lines online and saved them to use. But it was enough to keep Koo-hee awake all night. The next day, on the bus to school, Koo-hee ran into Ga-yoon. Ga-yoon tossed her backpack at Koo-hee and told her to take it to class for her. Suddenly, some boys on the bus, having seen something online, started staring and whispering about Ga-yoon. Both Koo-hee and Ga-yoon were confused. When they arrived at class, their classmates were giving Ga-yoon the cold shoulder. Deok-hee showed Koo-hee the reason why. A picture of Ga-yoon selling pomelos was circulating online. Ga-yoon was still completely unaware of what was happening. Later, Ga-yoon approached the president and vice president of the club. They were chatting amicably, but as soon as they saw Ga-yoon, they both tried to avoid her. Koo-hee witnessed the whole scene and felt sorry for Ga-yoon. Later, Koo-hee saw Ga-yoon being bullied by a senior member of the Hiva club. The senior showed Ga-yoon a revealing photo online, saying, "You don't deserve to be in this club." The senior then poured coffee on Ga-yoon, who left, humiliated. Ga-yoon bumped into Koo-hee, making her feel even more embarrassed. Koo-hee's thoughts were with Ga-yoon. Who could have posted that picture online? Koo-hee remembered the boy who was with Ga-yoon the previous night. Could it have been him? When school ended, Ga-yoon hadn't returned to class, and no one had picked up her backpack. Feeling a surge of kindness, Koo-hee decided to take Ga-yoon's bag home for her. After all, they had once been friends. In middle school, Ga-yoon transferred to Koo-hee's class. By chance, they became deskmates, both possessing kind and friendly personalities. They quickly bonded and became inseparable, always together. One day, Koo-hee stumbled upon Ga-yoon's family secret. Her father, a philanderer, had left a divorce notice for her mother and disappeared with his mistress. Since then, Ga-yoon's mother had frequently turned to alcohol. Ga-yoon had transferred schools to hide her parents' divorce and the pain of her past. But now, Koo-hee knew everything. Ashamed, Ga-yoon avoided Koo-hee. The next day, she changed seats, deliberately ignoring Koo-hee, even throwing a notebook Koo-hee had lent her into the trash. Koo-hee didn't take it personally. During gym class, Koo-hee clumsily bumped into Ga-yoon, who immediately assumed it was an act of revenge. Their classmates sided with Ga-yoon over a notebook. Was it really necessary? They labeled Koo-hee selfish and began to ostracize her. Ga-yoon even used a faked leg injury to make Koo-hee her errand runner. Koo-hee struggled throughout middle school due to this needless misunderstanding. Back in the present, Koo-hee stood in front of Ga-yoon's house to return her backpack. They immediately began arguing. Ga-yoon resented Koo-hee, asking, "Why are you always around when I'm embarrassed?" Koo-hee only wanted to help Ga-yoon find the person who had leaked her photos online. Ga-yoon insisted she didn't need Koo-hee's help, so Koo-hee reluctantly left. However, Ga-yoon began to feel touched by Koo-hee's sincerity. The following day, Koo-hee and Deok-hee went to watch the boys play basketball. Jae-hoon and the student body vice president, the best players on their respective teams, traded baskets. Jae-hoon's best friend wasn't bad either, and Deok-hee started to develop a crush on him. Koo-hee noticed the vice president's shoes were identical to the ones worn by the boy Ga-yoon was dating. Deok-hee explained, "They're not just similar, they're the same. No one else in this school can afford them. They're limited edition, imported." Koo-hee was shocked that Ga-yoon was dating the seemingly kind vice president. After the game, Jae-hoon and his friend overheard a phone conversation in the restroom. The person said, "Why did you post it so early? Wait a little longer, I'll show you something even better." Sensing trouble, Jae-hoon urged his friend to leave quickly. They waited by the stairs to see who emerged. Jae-hoon's friend remarked, "It sounds like he was talking about Ga-yoon's picture." Moments later, the boy came out, and Jae-hoon saw his face. That evening, Jae-hoon called Koo-hee. The person who posted Ga-yoon's photos was the vice president of the Hiva club. He had even smirked while Ga-yoon was being bullied by the girls in the club. Furious, Koo-hee immediately entered the vice president's name into the revenge diary. Meanwhile, the vice president was attending a conference with his father. The delegate, his father, told him to be prepared, as this was an opportunity to broaden his horizons. Suddenly, he received a text, "You have become a target of revenge." He dismissed it as spam. Later, at the conference, the vice president was invited to speak on behalf of Handong High School in the International Science and Technology Innovation Competition. Mid-presentation, the projector screen suddenly displayed his suggestive texts and a compromising video of him with an older woman cougar. Even his penis was exposed to the audience. Reporters swarmed him, and the vice president panicked and fled. The delegate was mortified as his son rushed out of the auditorium. In the chaotic crowd, a figure in a black hat seemed to be the one responsible. Koo-hee quickly saw the news and felt the vice president deserved it. He was utterly humiliated. The app sent a notification, "Revenge successful." Koo-hee began to worry about the potential consequences of using the revenge diary too often. The Super 4 group chat lit up. Everyone was satisfied with the vice president's downfall. Suddenly, Koo-hee wondered if one of her 3 friends was behind the revenge diary app. All 3 were capable, but it was a good thing, as it meant none of them would harm her. Now, there was only one task left, to help Ga-yoon remove the leaked photos online. For the tech-savvy Deok-hee, this was a piece of cake. On the other hand, Ga-yoon saw the news and realized the vice president's true colors. She was furious. Suddenly, Ga-yoon received a text from Koo-hee. "Everything is taken care of. You can come back to school now." Finally, Ga-yoon understood she had lost a good friend. The next day, Koo-hee came to class, and Ga-yoon took the initiative to make amends. Koo-hee turned to Deok-hee, celebrating. The plan worked perfectly. Meanwhile, the Hiva Club was disbanded pending an investigation into the vice president's scandal. He hadn't only propositioned Ga-yoon, but also many other female students. The president wasn't worried, figuring things would blow over eventually. The vice president suddenly remembered something strange. He showed the president the initial threatening text message. The vice president had thought it was spam, but now it seemed more significant. That day, the class had music. Except for one female student who was focused on listening to and appreciating the song, everyone else was nodding off. This student was trying so hard because she had a crush on the music teacher. The teacher announced that the final exam would be on this piece and dismissed the class. Everyone was incredibly worried about failing music again. They remembered last semester, almost the entire class had failed. Students would get one line into the song before being stopped by the teacher. Koo-hee's attempt had made the whole class burst out laughing. However, there was one student who consistently met the teacher's expectations. Her name was Mina, and she had a beautiful voice, even earning the teacher's praise. After class, Koo-hee stayed behind to clean up. Unexpectedly, Mina approached her and started a conversation. After some small talk, Koo-hee learned that Mina had a boyfriend who loved the chicken at Koo-hee's family restaurant. "But I've never seen you at the restaurant," Koo-hee said. It turned out Mina's boyfriend usually bought takeout chicken for her. Koo-hee invited Mina to visit the restaurant sometime. After cleaning the classroom, the two went to the soccer field to continue their chat. It was there that Koo-hee discovered Mina's boyfriend was much older than them. Mina asked Koo-hee to keep it a secret, and Koo-hee agreed. She wasn't one to gossip. That evening, Koo-hee returned to the chicken restaurant and saw the music teacher buying chicken. Recognizing him as Koo-hee's teacher, her parents offered him a discount, but the teacher, a man of integrity, refused any special treatment. He told Koo-hee he'd see her at school and left. Koo-hee's mother commented on how handsome the teacher was, just Koo-hee's type. Koo-hee defended her father. "Isn't dad your type?" Her mother chuckled awkwardly. "Your dad is my type, except for his face." Later, while strolling around the restaurant, Koo-hee spotted Mina being affectionate with a man. The man was carrying a bag of chicken and looked a lot like the music teacher. Could they be dating? The next day, Koo-hee and Jae-hoon planned to meet on the bus. Koo-hee had to run to catch it on time. Jae-hoon boarded the same crowded bus a little later. He made his way over to Koo-hee to shield her from the jostling crowd. Koo-hee felt protected and incredibly happy. Coincidentally, Koo-hee saw Mina get out of a man's car. The drop-off spot was close to school. Why hadn't he driven her directly to the school gates? Koo-hee was even more certain that Mina was hiding something. Based on what Mina had told her and what Koo-hee had witnessed the night before, the suspicion that Mina was dating the music teacher grew stronger in Koo-hee's mind. She still needed a definitive answer, so she snooped on Mina's Instagram. Finally, she could conclude that her suspicions were correct. Koo-hee decided not to tell anyone, not wanting to disrupt the happiness of others in the class. The music teacher and Mina were even exchanging flirtatious glances. Koo-hee silently wished them well. However, trouble always arrives unexpectedly. Everyone received news that the music teacher was getting married and was distributing invitations in the office. Mina couldn't believe it and rushed to find him. Koo-hee quickly followed, in front of the eyes of many classmates. Mina confronted the teacher. "Why did you betray me? We were dating, practically living together as lovers. Was it all a lie?" The teacher wanted to take Mina somewhere else to talk, but she couldn't even stand. She collapsed to the ground, sobbing. Koo-hee felt Mina was truly pitiful, and the teacher was utterly despicable. The class began to gossip about Mina and the music teacher. Mina had never been so vulnerable in front of others, and seeing her cry so loudly today showed how deeply hurt she was. A female student remembered seeing the teacher's phone case, which was a couple's case matching Mina's. But what if Mina had given it to him as a one-sided gift? They couldn't just listen to one side of the story. Just then, Mina walked in and took out photos taken with the teacher. Although his face wasn't clear, everyone could guess. Mina wanted to prove that she was indeed dating him. Seeing Mina's continuous tears, everyone stopped gossiping. That evening, Mina fell ill. Koo-hee and Deok-hee took her back to her apartment. The security guard asked, "Why isn't Mina coming home with the teacher today?" Koo-hee felt suspicious. Could they be living together? Mina didn't want to talk about it. Koo-hee and Deok-hee asked to take her up to her room. Afterwards, Koo-hee returned to the chicken restaurant, still thinking about Mina's situation. Coincidentally, Koo-hee's father recognized the girl in the photos as someone familiar. Koo-hee was puzzled because she had never seen her at the restaurant before. Koo-hee's father began to recount that day. He had delivered chicken to the apartment building and unfortunately had a stomach ache. The music teacher came out to receive the delivery, and Koo-hee's father, being bold, asked to use the restroom. After relieving himself, he was about to leave when he saw Mina running to the music teacher's apartment. Koo-hee was extremely bewildered, her suspicions about them living together growing stronger. The next day, the class was abuzz again as Mina shared her story with the teacher online. The story was incredibly sentimental and provocative, but upon closer inspection, it seemed like the teacher was taking advantage of Mina. The readers were disgusted. During music class, students wrote all over the board, criticizing the teacher as a pervert who seduced an innocent girl. Students even threw paper at him. "What right do you have to teach us?" Mina remained unresponsive. The teacher didn't know how to explain himself. After class, Koo-hee sat alone in the classroom. She wanted to use her diary to get revenge on the music teacher, but she still felt hesitant. Koo-hee decided to wait a little longer to see what would happen. That afternoon, Koo-hee went to a study group at Deok-hee's house. Somehow, the teacher had grouped her with Ga-yoon and So-yoon. The group's project was to research novels. They had only found outdated, boring novels and felt the topic was incredibly difficult. Deok-hee's mother brought in snacks. Seeing their struggle, she suggested, "There are plenty of good novels online. I read them every day." The four of them started searching. They found a rather interesting love story. However, after reading the first couple of pages, So-yoon accidentally discovered details in the novel that were very similar to the story Mina was posting online. Could Mina be lying? Koo-hee and Deok-hee decided to confront Mina and get to the bottom of things. They met her in the park. Koo-hee struggled to find the right words, so Deok-hee brought out the online novel. "Is your story based on this?" Mina put on a pitiful act. She avoided Deok-hee's question, only insisting that her relationship with the music teacher was real. Mina pleaded with Deok-hee and Koo-hee to stop doubting her, claiming it was hurting her. Then, Mina returned to her apartment. Koo-hee and Deok-hee sat in thought, considering the possibility that Mina's story was true. Perhaps the music teacher had imitated the novel while dating her. However, Koo-hee still felt uneasy, unable to believe the striking similarities. The next day at school, another shocking piece of news spread through the class. The school had summoned Mina and the music teacher for questioning. Mina maintained that they were dating, claiming they frequently ate together and spent nights at the teacher's apartment. As proof, she presented matching items she claimed they shared. She even declared that she was pregnant. However, the teacher vehemently denied any relationship with Mina. He stated that he hadn't given her any gifts. She had intentionally bought items similar to his. Since they lived in the same apartment building, he had occasionally given her a ride to school. As a thank you, Mina sometimes brought him homemade pastries, but he always made her leave them at the door and never invited her inside. Regarding the pregnancy, he knew nothing about it. With conflicting accounts, the school decided to investigate further. Later, Mina returned to the classroom where everyone was still gossiping. As she opened the door and walked in, the room fell silent. Deok-hee wasn't sure what would happen to Mina, but she knew they needed to uncover the truth quickly. Only Koo-hee realized that Mina was lying to put an end to the situation. Koo-hee decided to add Mina's name to her revenge notebook, not for revenge, but to prevent Mina from going too far. The next class began. Ga-yoon, representing her group, presented their analysis of the novel. Everyone recognized the striking resemblance between the novel's text and Mina's story. At the end of class, all eyes were on Mina, and whispers filled the air. She stood up, insisting she hadn't lied. Suddenly, she clutched her stomach and collapsed. The teacher immediately took her to see the doctor. Surprisingly, Mina wasn't pregnant. She was experiencing a phantom pregnancy. She was suffering from a severe psychological condition. The doctor advised the teacher to let Mina take time off school for treatment. Unable to accept the truth, Mina burst into tears. After this incident, the teacher shared a lesson with the class. This was a case of delusional thinking caused by students spending too much time online. They become immersed in the online world, unable to separate it from reality. He warned them to limit their phone usage before their phones were confiscated. However, as soon as he left, the students were back on their phones, discussing Mina's Instagram photos. It turned out the pictures weren't taken with the teacher. She had photoshopped them. At the end of the school day, Koo-hee visited Mina. Mina was still fantasizing about the teacher. Her condition hadn't improved much. Koo-hee felt sorry for her. Too much infatuation could cloud one's mind. From that day on, Mina stopped coming to school, and her Instagram disappeared. The music teacher resumed his work, but he didn't seem to smile as much anymore. That weekend, Koo-hee practiced makeup techniques online, preparing for her date with Jae-hoon. Afterward, Koo-hee went to Han's place and found Jae-hoon relaxing and listening to music. She tried to surprise him, but he accidentally swung his arm and hit her on the head. Jae-hoon immediately embraced Koo-hee and apologized profusely. 1,000 mistakes could be forgiven for this. Jae-hoon invited Koo-hee to eat at a restaurant. Two girls inside were instantly smitten with Jae-hoon. However, they didn't dare to make a move, knowing they didn't stand a chance with him. When Jae-hoon brought Koo-hee her food, the two girls were bewildered. Is that really his girlfriend? Koo-hee felt embarrassed. Jae-hoon, sensing this, made sure to assert his claim. He brought Koo-hee her food and even gently wiped her mouth. These subtle actions made the two girls at the next table green with envy. Koo-hee also felt a bit more confident. After their meal, they strolled around, trying out different street games and taking pictures together. Koo-hee and Jae-hoon were on a date, but the ones feeling butterflies were the single onlookers, while the truly happy ones were the couple themselves. They happened to pass by a jewelry store, and Koo-hee admired a necklace. Jae-hoon considered buying it for her, but seeing the hefty price tag, Koo-hee pretended she didn't like it anymore. All good things must come to an end. Jae-hoon walked Koo-hee home, and they lingered, reluctant to part ways. Unfortunately, Koo-hee's mother saw them and signaled for Koo-hee to bring Jae-hoon inside for a chat. Koo-hee's mother was even more smitten with Jae-hoon than her daughter. After inquiring about his family and education, she gave him a perfect 10. But why would you fall for my silly daughter? Jae-hoon could only manage a nervous laugh. Embarrassed, Koo-hee quickly pulled Jae-hoon up and they excused themselves. She walked Jae-hoon back, but he realized he had forgotten something. He'd forgotten to give her a finger heart. Blushing, he ran back to do so. Koo-hee was equally flustered. Later, Koo-hee scolded her mother. How could you say those things to Jae-hoon? Her mother simply replied that she wanted what was best for her daughter, to make sure Jae-hoon was sincere. This son-in-law, Koo-hee's mom had decided, was a keeper. That afternoon, Koo-hee and Deok-hee had a meet and greet with their idol. They brought Jae-hoon and their close friend along. The idol shook Jae-hoon's hand, but his grip was unusually firm. Jae-hoon realized he had encountered a real rival. The idol held onto Jae-hoon's hand for an extended period, only releasing it when his manager called him inside. Everyone complimented the idol's good looks, but for Koo-hee, Jae-hoon remained the most handsome. Jae-hoon felt a surge of happiness. Unexpectedly, the manager approached Jae-hoon. Are you a model? Their main model hadn't shown up, and the manager asked Jae-hoon to fill in, offering him payment. Needing money for the necklace he wanted to buy Koo-hee, Jae-hoon readily agreed. The manager also asked Koo-hee and their two friends to join the photoshoot to round out the numbers. Only Jae-hoon needed makeup. The others waited. Suddenly, the chairman arrived with Na-hee. It turned out the chairman was an investor in the company. She was also the keyball heiress type. Seizing the opportunity, she propositioned Jae-hoon, but he immediately replied, "I'm busy." Deok-hee was embarrassed for the chairman. She was truly shameless. Jae-hoon's friend, however, thought the chairman wasn't so bad. She was quite pretty. Koo-hee remained indifferent as long as Jae-hoon wasn't interested in her. Afterward, the photoshoot began. The CEO, wanting to flaunt her investor status, made constant and unreasonable demands. The crew had to retake the shots numerous times before she was finally satisfied. By the time they finished, everyone was exhausted. The CEO, however, cheerfully took her leave. Then, the idol also said goodbye to Koo-hee, explaining he had something important to attend to and had to leave early, encouraging the others to have fun. Before leaving, the idol didn't forget to give Jae-hoon a pointed look. Jae-hoon wasn't intimidated in the slightest. Later, Koo-hee's group went outside and saw the CEO bullying Na-hee. She had lost something and was blaming Na-hee for it, even demanding that Na-hee compensate her. Na-hee left feeling wronged. Koo-hee's group thought the CEO was being completely unreasonable. The CEO invited Jae-hoon to ride home with her, but he flatly refused. Unfazed, she said she'd see him next time. After getting into her car, the CEO discovered the lost item had been there all along. She didn't bother informing Na-hee, instead propping her feet up on the dashboard and telling the driver to go. Despite the CEO's arrogant behavior, the driver didn't dare to object. Meanwhile, Koo-hee's group discussed the CEO. They all agreed she was incredibly stuck up, and seeing her in action today confirmed it. They decided it was best to steer clear of her. They were most worried about Jae-hoon, as it seemed she had taken a liking to him. Jae-hoon asked Deok-hee for advice, and Deok-hee suggested he talk to Koo-hee about it. Koo-hee was at a loss. The next day, after school, Jae-hoon told Koo-hee, "I have a photo shoot today, so I can't walk you home." Jae-hoon had been offered a modeling job by a manager. Koo-hee felt a pang of disappointment, but it was work, so she let him go. Sadly watching him leave, Koo-hee noticed Jae-hoon walking with the CEO. Her worry intensified. Just then, Ga-yoon approached and warned Koo-hee, "If you don't do something, Jae-hoon will be snatched away." Koo-hee fell into deep thought. At home, Koo-hee waited for a text from Jae-hoon, but instead received one from her older brother. He had bought her a wallet as a gift. She immediately noticed a strange smell and realized it was made of toilet paper. Furious, Koo-hee wanted to get revenge on her brother, but her revenge journal wasn't working. The following day at school, Jae-hoon was surrounded by a group of girls. He had become a popular model. Koo-hee felt even more inadequate compared to him. After class, the girls waited for Jae-hoon at the school gate. Worried that Koo-hee and her friends would get caught in the commotion, Jae-hoon suggested they split up. He would go alone and lure the girls away. As soon as they saw Jae-hoon, the girls rushed towards him, but a car suddenly blocked their path. The CEO offered Jae-hoon a ride, and after a moment's hesitation, he got in. Koo-hee felt even more disappointed and heartbroken. After that, the president took Jae-hoon to a coffee shop. Jae-hoon cut right to the chase. "From now on, stay away from me. I don't like you." The president was completely thrown for a loop, and she wanted to know why. Jae-hoon, being brutally honest, said bluntly, "It's because you're ugly. Ugly inside and out. If you were ugly but had a good personality, I could deal with it." Jae-hoon excused himself and left. The president flew into a rage. She might just make Jae-hoon beg for forgiveness. That evening, Koo-hee was reading a book when she suddenly got a call from Deok-hee. She told Koo-hee to hop online and check the news ASAP. Turns out, Jae-hoon's scandal had been exposed. Back in middle school, Jae-hoon was a troublemaker. There were even photos of him smoking. Koo-hee couldn't believe it. The next day, on her way to school, Koo-hee was cornered by a reporter. She wanted to get the scoop on Jae-hoon. Koo-hee immediately clammed up, "I don't know anything." Na-hee, who was walking behind her, saw this and jumped in to chat with the reporter. let me tell you all about Jae-hoon." In class, the other students were also gossiping about the scandal. Jae-hoon didn't come to class today because he was under too much pressure. Seeing the other students whispering, Jae-hoon's best friend slammed his desk, furious. "Anyone who says one more word about this is gonna have a problem." Then he stormed out. Koo-hee and Deok-hee chased after Jae-hoon's best friend. The three of them went to the gymnasium. Koo-hee wanted to know how Jae-hoon was doing. Jae-hoon wasn't just being criticized. He also had to pay damages to the advertising company for breach of contract. He was under a ton of pressure right now. To help Jae-hoon out, Koo-hee suggested finding whoever started the rumor, but where should they even begin? Suddenly, Jae-hoon's best friend remembered seeing the photo of Jae-hoon smoking somewhere before. He dug through Instagram and realized it wasn't a cigarette, it was a lollipop. Someone had deliberately photoshopped the image and smeared Jae-hoon's reputation. If they found the culprit, they should sue their ass off. The three of them headed back to class. Before passing the computer lab, they accidentally caught Na-hee rushing out looking flustered, like she'd just done something bad. Jae-hoon's best friend immediately figured it out. He went into the computer lab and asked the students there, which computer was the girl who just ran out using? Then, Jae-hoon's best friend used some tech wizardry to discover that Na-hee was the one who posted the malicious comments. Koo-hee angrily confronted Na-hee, demanding to know why she would do such a thing. Na-hee refused to explain. Koo-hee threatened to sue her. Na-hee acted all cocky, saying that Koo-hee couldn't do anything even if she did sue. She said her piece and then turned to leave. Just then, the revenge notebook activated again. Koo-hee wanted to make Na-hee pay, but on second thought, Na-hee was too bold. There must be someone backing her. That's who Koo-hee needed to find. In the afternoon, Koo-hee was at her older brother's house, watching TV, when she unexpectedly stumbled upon shocking news. A reporter was interviewing a female student from her school, who was revealing all sorts of malicious things about Jae-hoon. The student's face was blurred so she could lie outright without anyone knowing her identity. However, the moment Koo-hee saw her, she recognized the student as Na-hee. Na-hee was going too far. Koo-hee couldn't stand it any longer and decided to add Na-hee's name to her revenge diary. Meanwhile, Na-hee was live streaming a makeup tutorial, and her fans were constantly praising her beautiful face. Suddenly, Na-hee received a message, "Congratulations, you have the honor of being added to the revenge diary for the second time." Na-hee was extremely worried. She asked for a brief break to end the live stream and quickly called the person behind the scenes. Na-hee was afraid that her plot to frame Jae-hoon would be exposed and she'd be sued. The other person reassured her that nothing would happen. Na-hee felt relieved and hung up. Then, Na-hee began removing her makeup. When her fans saw Na-hee's bare face, they started commenting in a frenzy. Some even declared they were unfollowing her. Only then did Na-hee realize the live stream hadn't been turned off, but it was too late. The Revenge Diary sent a video to Koo-hee with the notification, "Revenge successful." Koo-hee felt Na-hee deserved it. Unexpectedly, Koo-hee received a text message from Jae-hoon asking her to meet him at the park. Koo-hee immediately went to meet Jae-hoon, and they were both happy to see each other after such a long time apart. Koo-hee asked Jae-hoon how he was doing, and he informed her that everything was fine now. The news really spread fast. As soon as the conversation from Na-hee's live stream was revealed, everyone understood that Jae-hoon had been framed, and they helped him clear his name. Now, Jae-hoon had a gift for Koo-hee because it was her birthday. Koo-hee hadn't even remembered her own birthday. Inside the box was the necklace Koo-hee had always wanted. "But how did you know I liked it?" Koo-hee asked. "A man has to be perceptive," Jae-hoon replied. But back then, Jae-hoon didn't have enough money. Koo-hee realized that Jae-hoon had been working as a model to earn money to buy her the gift. Jae-hoon also declared, "I'm not doing that anymore. Being a celebrity is exhausting. I just want to be with Koo-hee." Koo-hee blushed. She asked Jae-hoon to put the necklace on her, saying it suited him perfectly. Koo-hee felt incredibly happy. The two looked at each other lovingly, missing only a kiss. Koo-hee really wanted one, but a girl couldn't make the first move. Suddenly, a text message from her older brother interrupted the moment. Her brother ordered Koo-hee to come home immediately, or he and their father would come looking for her. Why does it have to be now? Koo-hee didn't want to go home. However, Jae-hoon realized Koo-hee was in trouble. He advised her to go home and see what was going on. "Let me take you home." Koo-hee had to give up her romantic evening and go home. The two said goodbye, and Jae-hoon almost forgot something. He leaned in and kissed Koo-hee on the cheek before finally leaving. Koo-hee went into the house feeling content. What could be happier than this? This scene was accidentally witnessed by an idol. He was extremely disappointed to be the one who was too late. Inside her older brother's house, Jae-hoon was waiting for Koo-hee. "I almost had to come looking for you," Koo-hee said resentfully. "Brother, why do you have to treat me like this?" "Because the whole family wants to give you a surprise," her brother replied. Her parents brought out a birthday cake and sang "Happy Birthday" to Koo-hee. Her brother welcomed his little princess back home. Koo-hee was incredibly happy because this was the first time her family had ever celebrated her birthday. Koo-hee would always remember this 17th birthday. After the party, Koo-hee went to her room and hugged her Jae-hoon poster. It turned out she was the one who had stolen the poster from in front of the clothing store. Koo-hee believed that Jae-hoon was her lucky charm. Ever since Jae-hoon appeared in her life, Koo-hee's life had completely changed. Over there, Jae-hoon was skipping happily on his way home when he suddenly heard a loud scream. He ran towards the sound and saw a couple arguing. The man was about to hit the woman. Jae-hoon stepped in to stop him, but the man pretended to fall and then played the victim, feigning injury. The woman immediately helped him up. Just then, a police car arrived with sirens blaring. It was then that Jae-hoon realized the two were acting. Afterwards, Jae-hoon was arrested for assault. Jae-hoon's parents, upon hearing the news, rushed to the police station. The couple wanted to settle things amicably, saying all they needed was compensation, but Jae-hoon adamantly refused because he hadn't done anything wrong. The police didn't have any evidence, as there were no security cameras on that stretch of road, so they couldn't drop the charges against Jae-hoon. Jae-hoon's parents had no choice but to listen to the police and compromise with the couple, even though they knew their son was completely innocent. The next day, Jae-hoon didn't come to class. Koo-hee worriedly asked Jae-hoon's best friend, but he didn't know what had happened to Jae-hoon either. Suddenly, a female student ran in, announcing that Jae-hoon was at the police station. Club president Yu-ra had said so. Koo-hee immediately went to the president to ask about Jae-hoon's situation. She revealed that Jae-hoon had just been released and recounted his story. Koo-hee was suspicious. "Why do you know so much?" The president's face suddenly twisted. "Because my family has wide connections." She could even help Jae-hoon get off scot-free. Deok-hee thought the president was just bragging and led Koo-hee back to class. The classmates also didn't believe Jae-hoon was a violent person, but the news online was very clear. Jae-hoon had assaulted someone. After the end of the school day, Koo-hee's group got together and went to Jae-hoon's house so he could explain things himself. Jae-hoon invited everyone in. Koo-hee scolded him for not telling them what had happened. Jae-hoon recounted the whole story. The friends were angry. How can there be people like that in the world? Even worse, that couple is even more despicable. Now they don't want to settle. They insist on suing Jae-hoon. Deok-hee suspected. Maybe they received money from someone else, with the goal of targeting Jae-hoon. Jae-hoon immediately thought of one enemy, club president Yu-ra. Although Jae-hoon didn't dare voice his suspicions so as not to worry his friends. The next day, Koo-hee and Deok-hee went to the hospital to negotiate with the scamming couple. Deok-hee thought they should just leave, since what could two students do? Koo-hee still wanted to try. The two met the woman in front of the hospital room. While inside, the man was perfectly comfortable. The woman was arrogant and immediately tried to kick Koo-hee and Deok-hee out. Deok-hee got fired up. "You robbed people, and now you're crying about it." The woman pretended not to bother with kids, pushed Koo-hee aside, and left. Koo-hee and Deok-hee had no choice but to return, disappointed. At Koo-hee's house, Jae-hoon's best friend went online to search for the scamming woman's personal page. Accidentally, he discovered a picture of the woman holding an employee ID card. It turned out she was an employee in the president's family's company. Finally, the group could confirm that the person behind the scheme to frame Jae-hoon was her. Just then, Her older brother came home and saw the kids working diligently on the investigation. Her brother showed them a trick. Just zoom in and sharpen the image, and they got the evidence. The woman and the club president knew each other. That evening, Koo-hee went to see Jae-hoon and told him about the new discovery. Jae-hoon had already figured out who was behind everything because, in addition to framing Jae-hoon, the president had cancelled an order with Jae-hoon's father's company, causing him a lot of trouble. Jae-hoon blamed himself. Koo-hee tried to encourage him. "It's not your fault. Everything will pass soon." Koo-hee thought to herself, if there was a revenge note, everything would be okay. Jae-hoon became cheerful again. Suddenly, Koo-hee received a message from the president, asking to meet her to talk and offer a solution to Jae-hoon's problem. The next day, Koo-hee went to see the chairman. She offered a deal. If Koo-hee broke up with Jae-hoon, the chairman would help him resolve his troubles. This was a classic carrot-and-stick approach. Koo-hee questioned her motives, asking if the chairman truly loved Jae-hoon. The chairman asserted that it was obvious. In reality, the chairman simply wanted to possess something she couldn't have. Suddenly, Jae-hoon burst into the room, refusing to let Koo-hee take the fall for him, and reminding the chairman, "I will never love you." Jae-hoon vowed that he wouldn't stand by if the chairman continued to bother Koo-hee. With that, Jae-hoon took Koo-hee away, leaving the chairman seething with anger. In a moment of carelessness, Koo-hee dropped her phone. The chairman looked at the phone and saw all the photos of Koo-hee and Jae-hoon together and happy, and in anger, she deleted them all. Afterwards, she took Koo-hee's phone into the bathroom and dunked it in water. The chairman wanted Jae-hoon and Koo-hee to pay dearly. Meanwhile, Jae-hoon took Koo-hee back to class. Koo-hee wondered how Jae-hoon knew she had gone to meet the chairman. Jae-hoon replied, "Ga-yoon told me." Koo-hee smiled, thanking Ga-yoon. Their old friendship had returned, but the pressing issue now was how to resolve Jae-hoon's situation. Jae-hoon comforted Koo-hee. "You don't need to worry so much. I can handle this small matter. How else would I be able to protect you, Koo-hee?" Koo-hee felt a sense of security and support in her heart, making her incredibly happy. Still, Koo-hee wanted to help Jae-hoon. She decided to resort to her revenge diary, but she couldn't find her phone anywhere. Where on earth had she dropped it? Later, Koo-hee and Deok-hee went to take out the trash. By chance, the driver dropped his broom. Even though she knew he worked for the chairman, Koo-hee kindly helped the driver pick it up. The chairman approached and blocked Koo-hee's path, returning her phone. Despite the fact that the chairman was her enemy, Koo-hee still thanked her. The chairman then said, "I accidentally broke it." Koo-hee was extremely disappointed. How would she be able to use her revenge diary now? After returning home, Koo-hee became depressed. Her older brother tried to cheer her up with jokes, but Koo-hee remained unenthusiastic. Koo-hee remembered that her older brother was a tech genius, so she asked him to fix her phone. Her older brother said he'd give it a try. That evening, the driver arrived to pick up the mother. The chairman had the same personality. Both mother and daughter were bossy. The driver was a little late, and the mother started kicking and hitting him. However, the driver had to endure it. After taking the boss to a meeting with her customer, the driver sat and waited in his car. Coincidentally, he saw Koo-hee delivering chicken. Seeing that the driver was injured, Koo-hee immediately asked if he was okay. "You really are such a good girl." The driver gave Koo-hee a USB drive containing information that could help Jae-hoon. The driver often accompanied the chairman, so he knew all of her wrongdoings. Koo-hee was worried that the chairman's family would fire him. The driver said it was no problem. After all, he was going to quit soon anyway because he couldn't stand the family anymore. Koo-hee could only sincerely thank the driver. The next day, Koo-hee brought the USB to school for her classmates to see its contents, which recorded the chairman bribing the man and woman to frame Jae-hoon. She had also been present near the scene at the time. With this evidence, Jae-hoon could be exonerated, even if it wasn't enough to sue the chairman back. Still, everyone was satisfied with this outcome. Perhaps the chairman wouldn't dare to cause any further trouble. Later, Jae-hoon and Koo-hee went on a private date. Jae-hoon wanted to thank Koo-hee for everything she had done, but Koo-hee hadn't actually done anything significant. It was Jae-hoon's inherent goodness that had moved the taxi driver. Being kind to others is helping yourself, which is why Jae-hoon had once told the chairman, I'd rather love someone ugly with a good heart than someone ugly inside and out. Jae-hoon gave Koo-hee a quick, stolen kiss, making her blush with embarrassment. Meanwhile, the chairman was furious because her plan had completely failed. She ran around the schoolyard like a madwoman, venting her anger. Exhausted, the chairman stopped to rest. Unfortunately, a couple engaging in PDA appeared right in front of her. The chairman became even more resentful toward Jae-hoon. She couldn't rest until she did something about it. That evening, she called Koo-hee and asked her to bring fried chicken to the cram school, intending to humiliate Koo-hee with money. Koo-hee patiently endured and accepted the money before leaving. But would the chairman easily let Koo-hee off the hook? The chairman complained that the fried chicken was too oily and dumped it all on the ground. She even insulted Koo-hee's family. Koo-hee, feeling bad for her parents' hard work, was about to bend down and pick up the chicken when the chairman directly stomped on it. Koo-hee reached her limit and unleashed her anger on the chairman. They grabbed each other's hair, slapped and punched each other repeatedly. The classmates tried to intervene, but to no avail. So, they just stood back, filmed the fight, and joined in on the fun. The next day, Koo-hee came to school with dark circles under her eyes that made her friends worry. Deok-hee wondered, "Who in the world did you get into a fight with?" Before she could even finish speaking, here came trouble. The chairman's mother and daughter stormed in, shouting, "Which one of you beat up my kid yesterday?" She went to slap Koo-hee, but Jae-hoon immediately stopped her. The homeroom teacher ran in to mediate, saying, "What's going on? Please, let's talk calmly." The chairman's mother just kept ranting and raving, even grabbing the homeroom teacher's hair. Both sides were then invited to the principal's office to sort things out. Koo-hee's mother also arrived. Initially, she was a bit intimidated by the other family's background. However, Na-hee unexpectedly brought evidence, proving that the chairman was in the wrong. Faced with Koo-hee's mother, she immediately straightened her back, but the chairman's overbearing mother and daughter insisted they were not at fault. "If you're not at fault, why are you even here?" The two mothers went head to head. Koo-hee's mother, known as the #1 tigress, quickly gained the upper hand, forcing the other woman back into her seat. The homeroom teacher was impressed, giving her a mental thumbs up. The chairman's mother and daughter couldn't win, and in their frustration, vowed they wouldn't let this go. However, she was the one who ended up paying the price. The chairman's mother was sued by the school for abuse of power and assault. Koo-hee's family saw the news and felt incredibly satisfied. Koo-hee also thanked her mother for always protecting her daughter. Now, Koo-hee's family was much more harmonious than before. Her older brother even helped Koo-hee fix her phone. The Revenge Diary app was still working, but from now on, Koo-hee didn't want to use it anymore. After everything that happened, Koo-hee knew she should solve her own problems and not rely on anyone else. Koo-hee decided to delete the Revenge Diary and return to the normal life of a high school student. Koo-hee and Jae-hoon's relationship continued smoothly. One day, Koo-hee asked Jae-hoon, "Why do you like me?" Jae-hoon said that Koo-hee was a lot like Mina. Koo-hee felt a little hurt, thinking that Mina was Jae-hoon's first love and she was just a replacement. But it turned out, Jae-hoon just said that she was like his dog. She's cute, eats a lot, and farts a lot, just like Koo-hee. Every time he saw the dog, the first person Jae-hoon thought of was Koo-hee. Even though she was compared to a dog, Koo-hee still felt very happy. "Can I replace her and sleep next to you?" They both laughed together, because from now on, everything would be alright. High school love is still the most beautiful, linked to the youth of every person. It is also an unforgettable memory that everyone always remembers. Hopefully the love for that girl will always be intact, never changing. Also, hopefully it will still be that girl, holding hands and walking down the aisle together. But real life is not like a dream, leaving us with many regrets. We can't be with our youthful lover until the end of the road. Do you have any regrets?